All right, so good afternoon. Welcome to Parenting for Potential, using praise to foster a growth mindset. My name is Naomi Church, and I am with Fiddlers. Fiddlers is the Florida Diagnostic and Learning Resources System. It's a state discretionary project funded under the Florida Department of Education. There are 19 Fiddler centers in the state of Florida. Most service multiple school districts, but because of the size of Broward, which is the sixth largest school district in the nation, our Fiddler Center, Fiddler's Reach, only services Broward schools. But this webinar was advertised far and wide. So do I have anybody who's from outside of Florida or even in Florida but outside of Broward County? All right. So there are 4 functions to Fiddlers: Child Find, which helps identify children with disabilities from birth to age 5. Parent Services, which brings you webinars just like this one, as well as face-to-face opportunities when we're allowed to do that. Technology, which is instructional and assistive technology, and Human Resource Development, which is my primary function, which is providing high quality professional development opportunities for teachers. Most of the work that I do focuses around growth mindset, universal design for learning, and math interventions. So again, my name is Naomi Church. I am originally from Chicago. I've been teaching in Broward schools for over 17 years. I spent 10 years in the classroom teaching inclusion, and then I was a school-based curriculum coach. I was an ESE support facilitator, and now I have the pleasure of doing professional development for teachers full-time. I have 2 children of my own. They're in 3rd and 5th grade in Broward County Public Schools. And my husband is the regional director of sales for Canvas, actually. So you'll see the skyline of Chicago on the bottom there, since that's where I'm from. And I got my master's in ed leadership from Florida State University. Go Seminoles. And in the upper left-hand corner there, you'll see my interesting little known fact, and that's that I play roller derby with the Gold Coast Derby girls in South Florida. All right, so if you click on participants, you'll see down at the bottom that you have the option to raise your hand. And I'm going to ask you to participate by raising the little hand. If you don't want to do that, you can also just type right into the chat pod and type me if you want. All right, so I want you to raise your hand if you've ever heard of the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. All right, awesome. We're going to be talking about that book today, and I'm going to be talking about some of her research. I want you to raise your hand if you believe that you make a difference in this world. Great. Hopefully that's why we're all here. Okay, I'm going to lower the hands. I want you to raise your hand if you believe you still have something to learn. All right, I want you to raise your hand if you have one child at home. All right. Raise your hand if you have 2 children at home. That's me. I mentioned that I have 2, a boy and a girl. All right, we have a lot of people with 2 kids. All right, raise your hand if you have 3 or more children at home. All right, so you guys are super busy right now. All right, and let's see how many educators I have in the room. So raise your hand if you are a teacher or if you work for a school district at all. All right, we have a couple of those. Great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on your lunch break today. So, research shows that parents can have a powerful impact on their children's mindsets. The language you use and the actions you take show your children about what you expect. Giving process praise, talking about the brain, accepting mistakes as learning opportunities, and understanding the role of emotions in learning are all practices you can begin today. And then we're going to talk about some practical strategies to help you do that. So, to start out with, we're going to play a little game. This is the celebrity name game. And I'm going to give you some clues, and you're going to guess the person based on the clues. And when you know who it is, you can type it right into the chat pod. So, your choices this afternoon are Thomas Edison, Danny Glover, Agatha Christie, Walt Disney, and Harriet Tubman. Okay, our first person developed many devices that greatly influenced life around the world, including the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and a long-lasting practical electric light bulb. He was a prolific inventor holding 1,093 US patents in his name, as well as many patents in other countries. More significant than the number of Edison's patents was the widespread impact of his inventions. All right, fantastic. So you guys got it. It's Edison, of course. He said, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. What you may not know about Thomas Edison is that he struggled with math and he didn't learn to read until he was 12 years old. His teachers actually told him that he wasn't smart. Okay, next up. This person is an animator and entrepreneur, particularly noted as a filmmaker and a popular showman, as well as an innovator in animation and theme park design. He was actually the original voice for Mickey Mouse. During his lifetime, he received 4 honorary Academy Awards and won 22 Academy Awards from a total of 59 nominations. All right, you guys got it. That's Disney. Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. What you may not know about Walt Disney is that he didn't learn to read until he was 9 years old. He drew pictures to help him remember what he was learning. So, what was essentially an adaptive strategy to help him overcome his deficit areas turned into a prolific career. Okay, next up, this person was an English crime novelist, short story writer, and playwright. This person wrote 6 romances under a different name, but is best known for the 66 detective novels and 14 short story collections she wrote under her own name. The Guinness Book of World Records lists this person as the best-selling novelist of all time. Her novels have sold roughly 2 billion copies, and her estate claims her works come 3rd in the rankings of the world's most widely published books, behind only Shakespeare and the Bible. All right, that's Agatha Christie. She said, the popular idea that a child forgets easily is not an accurate one. Many people go right through life in the grip of an idea which has been impressed on them in very tender years. So that is to say that what we say to kids matters. What you may not know about Agatha is that she had a learning disability called dysgraphia, which prevented her writing from being easily understood. She dictated all 100 plus of her novels, stories, and plays. So she comes third in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most widely published books, and she actually had a specific writing disability. Okay, next up, this person in 1849, fearing that she would be sold and separated from her family, plotted her escape. By night, she followed the North Star and relied on the Underground Railroad. She soon returned to Maryland to lead members of her family to freedom. Under cover of darkness, she employed an arsenal of deceptive tactics and tricks to conceal her identity. Repeatedly returning to the South, she led approximately 70 people to safety. In 1863, she led a group of Black soldiers and scouts on surveillance missions along the southeastern seaboard and worked with Colonel James Montgomery to lead a raid in South Carolina in which 700 slaves were freed. So absolutely, that is Harriet Tubman. She said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." What you may not know about Harriet Tubman is that she suffered a traumatic head injury that would cause a lifetime of seizures, along with powerful visions and vivid dreams that she ascribed to God. She would rely on these visions, first in planning her own escape from slavery, and later when leading others to freedom in the North. So she suffered a traumatic brain injury at a young age. And if you're good at process of elimination, you can probably guess who's coming next. Next up, we have Danny Glover. He is an American actor, film director, and political activist. He's well known for his roles in The Color Purple, Predator 2, Witness, and the Lethal Weapon series. He's also appeared in many other movies, television shows, and theatrical productions. He is an active supporter of various humanitarian and political causes. Glover said, "If we talk about literacy, we have to talk about how to enhance our children's mastery over the tools needed to live intelligent, creative, and involved lives." What you may not know about Danny Glover is that he was placed in a self-contained class for students with disabilities until he was in high school. He didn't actually learn to read or write until after he graduated high school. So I want you to take a moment to think and respond in the group chat. What do all of these people have in common? They all had disabilities. They all had challenges, but they didn't let their challenges define them. They all persevered. They overcame. They're known for having grit. And what's interesting is that all of these people had disabilities and challenges, but we don't know them for their struggles. We know them for their successes because, in spite of everything, they persevered and they came out successful on the other side. And that's what we want for our children. So let's talk about how to do that. Well, it starts with mindset. So, mindset is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines one's behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. And I love this visual because when the kitten looks at her reflection, she sees a tiger. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today comes from the book Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. This book is, of course, you can just buy the book on Amazon, but it's also available on Audible or Overdrive if you like to listen to audiobooks. What's really neat is that there is, of course, a chapter on education and the impact that mindset has on education. But there's also a chapter on athletes and how the mindset of an athlete has either made or broken his career, and the same with CEOs. So, Dweck's research has shown that most people have one of two mindsets, either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So, people with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence is static. Basically, you were either born with it or you weren't. So, they avoid challenges because it becomes all about protecting yourself and making sure people don't know that you're limited in what you can do. These people tend to give up easily. They see effort as pointless because you were either born with it or you weren't. They ignore useful or negative feedback. They feel threatened by the success of others, and they tend to plateau early and achieve less than their full potential. Whereas people with a growth mindset believe that intelligence can be developed. If I study or practice or work hard, I will be able to achieve more. So these people embrace challenges. They persist in the face of setbacks. They see effort as the path to mastery. I'm not going to learn and grow if I don't try my best. They learn from criticism. They use it as useful feedback. They find lessons and inspirations in the success of others, and they tend to reach higher levels of achievement. So you only have to know one thing, that you can learn anything. This is the message that we want to send to our kids. When we work hard, we can learn things and we can overcome challenges. But mindset isn't just about believing. It requires action. It's about acting on those beliefs, living them out each day. So, if we think about the current situation that we're in, where there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of people forced into situations that they wouldn't have chosen, right? Nearly everyone is doing remote learning. And unless you signed up for a virtual school, most people never really intended to teach or parent their kids through remote learning. But we need to use our mindset to turn this into a positive experience. So instead of thinking, we're not ready for remote learning, try thinking, what can we put into place to be more ready? So there's various webinars and resources out there to help you do that. One tip is to use a schedule. And there's these super idealistic schedules out all over social media, but you can develop one for your kids, for yourself, something that's realistic and that works for your family. So I have schedules for my kids, and I know that they can't work for more than an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, without some kind of a break or other activity. So that's scheduled in. I know that they're not going to be able to work the same kind of day that I do while I'm working from home. So instead of thinking we don't have enough resources, try thinking, what can we do with the resources we have? Instead of thinking, I wasn't trained for this, both as a parent and as an educator, Try thinking, where can I learn more? And kudos to you for joining us on this webinar today, because this is one of the ways that you can learn more. And this is a huge step in changing your mindset. So it's really more about being solution-oriented than problem-oriented. If you can't change a situation, then change your perspective towards it. Most of your stress comes only from the way you respond to a situation, not from the way your life truly is. So let's talk about some practical strategies to help you and your child build a growth mindset. Let's start with praise. Take a second to type into the group chat a commonly used praise statement, something that you've said to your children before, something like, good job, or well done, maybe even something that you've said to your kids today. All right, I see great job, great effort. I'm so proud of you. You did it, doing great. You can do hard things. Nice listening. You're making a great effort. Your hard work is paying off. Great job. I'm so proud of you. You got it. You are very smart. All right, let's check this out.
So check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really easy nonverbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of two ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, wow, great job. You must be really smart at this. Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, wow, great job. You must have worked really hard at this. Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible. So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the two groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now, the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first, and you will surely do well on it. Now, the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happens.
Child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talents. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with, so teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth. I think this is a pretty easy fix that will help us develop growth mindsets within the kids that we work with. And as all the research shows, having a growth mindset has a big time impact on the development of a child, whether it's on the court, in the classroom, or just in life. Thanks so much for following along and watching this video. For more like this, visit championshipbasketballschool.com and click on the championship newsletter. See you next week. Thanks, guys.
So when I first learned about this research, I had a little fixed mindset moment where I thought, oh no, what about all those kids when I was in the classroom, all those first graders where I said, you're so smart, you make Mrs. Church happy, and all those times where I said the same thing to my own kids. But then the words of Maya Angelou ushered me back into a growth mindset, and I decided to forgive myself and move forward, because when you know better, you do better. So it doesn't matter what you've said to your kids before, you can change it going forward and change the way that you praise your children. So I want you to take a moment to revise your praise statement. So evaluate the praise statement that you or someone else wrote in the chat pod, and you're going to rewrite it if necessary to be growth mindset inducing. So for example, instead of good job, it is growth mindset inducing just by changing that to good effort, so that we're focusing on the effort and the process rather than on making a judgment of a final product. I'm so proud of your effort. So for me, when I'm giving this kind of praise to my children, like if they run to me and show me, a picture they've drawn or something that they've done, it's really automatic to just want to be like, oh, great job, or you're so smart, or you're so talented. And so sometimes I have to stop and take a deep breath and think about what I'm saying before I say it. And it really seems to me more like making an observation than making a judgment. So it could just be looking at something and being like, wow, it looks like you really put a lot of time into that. All right, so I see people writing in the chat pod, keep up the good work, good effort. I'm so proud of your effort. Absolutely. So remember that words make worlds. What we say to and about a child changes how we think about them and how they think about themselves. Choose your words carefully. Speak kindly. We want to make sure to praise risk-taking and effort. We want our kids to take on challenges. We want to teach them that fail just means first attempt in learning. One of the best ways you can model a growth mindset is to speak honestly about the mistakes you've made and what you've learned from them. Speak positively about your mistakes and struggles, and this will show your children that taking risks and making mistakes are all a natural part of the learning process. And remember that Thomas Edison said, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Remind your kids that they haven't failed. They've just found more ways that won't work. And so now they can keep trying to find a way that does work. And when they try to use that negative self-talk and say, I can't do this, then we're going to respond with yet. So all of these negative statements, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I don't understand, I don't know the answer, this doesn't work. We're just going to keep throwing in the word yet. Just because you can't do it now doesn't mean you won't be able to. If you study, if you practice, if you keep trying and persevere, you will be able to do it. We want to teach our kids that just like building muscles, carving new neural pathways takes time and repetition. We're growing our brains in the same way that we grow our muscles. So instead of using fixed praise statements like, that's perfect, you're so smart, your drawing is wonderful, you're so talented, you're a natural athlete, you always get good grades, that makes me happy. I'm definitely guilty of that one. We want to change and use growth-minded praise, where we say things like, you pay such close attention to detail, you work hard in this class and it shows. What strategy did you use to make that drawing look so realistic? I find your determination on that field inspiring. Keep practicing and you will see great results. You should be proud of the effort you put forth to earn those grades. So creating a supportive learning environment requires both beliefs and actions, and it all starts with you. Your mindset impacts your actions, and then your actions impact your child's mindset, and your child's mindset impacts his or her performance. So how successful our children really are starts with us. So you want to think about what message you're sending. When we say things like, you learned that so quickly, you're so smart, what they think is, if I don't learn something quickly, I'm not smart. When we say, look at that drawing, is he the next Picasso or what? What they think is, I shouldn't try drawing anything hard or they'll see I'm no Picasso. So the words that we use can actually discourage our children from taking risks. And when we say you're brilliant, you got an A without even studying, what they think is, I'd better quit studying or they won't think I'm brilliant. So we need to be very careful that the message we're actually sending to our kids is a message that we intend to send to our kids. So other than praise, how can we help to develop a growth mindset within our homes, within our children? Well, one way is by the TV shows that you're showing, right? Of course, now with the remote learning, the kids are going to need breaks. They can't just work on Canvas at their computers for hours on end. A great way to take a brain break is to show The Magic School Bus. It's now on Netflix. And Miss Frizzle is all about take chances, make mistakes, get messy. And the whole message behind the show is perseverance. When the kids run into a problem, Miss Frizzle doesn't solve it for them. She teaches them to push through and explore and persevere. And that's what we want to model for our kids. That's what we want to be showing them. Not everybody succeeds the first time, and that's okay, because our mistakes and challenges are all opportunities to help us grow. We can also create a community that values effort by teaching our children to take responsibility. So this is a struggle daily in my own home. I have a third grader who is real quick to blame the computer or blame Canvas. And sometimes I have to go over there and be like, no, it's not the computer's fault. You clicked the wrong thing. We're working on taking responsibility when something doesn't work exactly the way you want it to. And sometimes that means teaching them to start over. Oh, that didn't work right, or you don't like that. It's okay, start over, try it again. We want to foster curiosity in our children, teach them to innovate. Sometimes, unfortunately, that means letting them cry, whine, and complain. We want to teach them to care, and we want to emphasize humility. Another strategy is with books. So these are two of my favorite books that help children to develop a growth mindset: Beautiful Oops and Ish. In Beautiful Oops, every page is a mistake that has been turned into something positive. So a mistake that's been repositioned. So especially if you have younger children at home, it might be worth ordering these and reading them with your kids to talk to them about a growth mindset and how to reposition our mistakes. In addition to books and TV shows, the movies that we let our kids watch can also help them to develop a growth mindset. So Finding Nemo, where Dory says, just keep swimming. Dory runs into all kinds of obstacles and she just keeps going. If you were with us at the very beginning, I showed a music video of Try Everything from Zootopia. And that whole movie is about this little rabbit, and everybody tells her she can't do it, but she doesn't listen to them, and she keeps on persevering until she comes out successful. And that's what we want for our kids. That's the kind of thing we want to model, that we want to keep showing them. We can also ask questions of our children, and this was in the handout. 10 what questions to develop a growth mindset. So asking your kids things like, what did you do today that made you think hard? What happened today that made you keep on going? What can you learn from this? What mistake did you make that taught you something? Maybe this is a conversation that you have at the dinner table. Back when we were leaving the house and going places, I kept this as a cheat sheet in my car, and these were questions that I asked my kids on the way home from school or when we were driving to one of their activities, because that was the time when we were all together to be able to have a conversation. But now maybe you can do it at the dinner table or maybe at bedtime, asking a question and opening up the conversation before they go to sleep to reflect on their day. So to recap, you can build a growth mindset at home by showing movies and TV shows that model a growth mindset. And in the handout, you'll find a list of some great ideas. You can do it with the books that the children are reading and selecting, books about perseverance, both fiction and nonfiction. You can do this by playing games with your kids. Bring back a family game night. Any of the board games that you already have at home, Trouble, Uno, Dominoes, whatever it is. We teach our kids to have a growth mindset in the way that we play the games together and in the way we respond when we win and when we lose. We want to teach our children to lose well, that just because you lost today doesn't mean you should quit and never play this game again. We're going to play it again tomorrow, and you're going to keep on going, because that's what we do. My son actually just learned how to ride a bike without training wheels during this quarantine. And the first day he was so frustrated and he kept crying and he even threw his bike down and kicked it and said he was never going to ride it again. So we had to work past that. And both my husband and I had to sit with him and be like, no, that's not how it works. Just because you're not good at something doesn't mean you're allowed to quit. That means that we need to try even harder and spend even more time on it. And now, less than a week later, he loves it. We want to praise effort instead of ability, and we want to ask our children questions. So, to wrap up, a concluding thought: love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. So I want you to take a moment and reflect. Go ahead and type in the group chat a response to one of these statements. So either inspiration that you used today, how perseverance helped you today. Anybody who's working from home and has kids there needs perseverance, and challenges that you embraced today. So go ahead and take a moment to respond to one of those. This is also something that you can do with your kids to help them reflect at the end of the night. They don't have to answer all three. Maybe it's picking one each day to really think about inspiration, perseverance, and challenges. And if you want to know more, you can go to my website, mrschurch.net. And then there's another link here, and that links to more resources that you can use with your kids.